Hello, everybody. Scott Golden with the Superstars of Wrestling Review, April 24th, 1993. We open with your Intercontinental Champion, Shawn Michaels, against the challenge or lack thereof of Dale Wolf. Michaels, of course, headed towards a summer feud with Curt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, and as I mentioned in the last audio I did, kind of a lackluster feud for those two. Not comparable to what they could have done in earlier times, not comparable to what I even expected them to do as a young person. Anyway, hard shot by Michaels, and Michaels does a lot of stalling. He also does a little bit of prancing and the like, just really basic stuff. Clothesline off the apron gives him an advantage here. Inverted, I guess you'd say hot shot across the top rope. Michaels still has not switched completely to the use of the super kick as a finish, which I don't know what makes the switch happen. I think he does that in about 94, 95 or so, but just interesting. Wolf gets a few offensive maneuvers, including a clothesline. Super kick is used in the match, but not as a finish, and we see him use the back suplex. Michaels, clears the ring of him and moves on. Event Center, very simple, simplistic stuff. Crush talking about wanting to get even with Doink once and for all. Money Inc. talks about being the best tag team and really not having any challengers, at least in their mind. Then the Steiner brothers up against Riggins and Jones. Steiner brothers haven't found their swing yet. They do in the next few months, including some matches right here on Superstars with Money Incorporated, one of which where they win the Intercontinental Championship, which we'll cover in the months to come. Anyway, fireman's carry and really basic stuff by Scott Steiner early, and you can definitely see the difference between Scott and Rick, even in wrestling style, both of whom stand-up wrestlers at the University of Michigan, collegiate style, but you can definitely see Scott has something that Rick never quite captured. Anyway, big backdrop by Steiner, Scott Steiner specifically, and he stays in for the majority of the match. Rick comes in, gets a few harder shots, a couple of suplexes, and flips the man over. Rick takes him to the top turnbuckle, hits a suplex from there. Ride time, cross faces, and really basic stuff. Tag off to Scott. Scott comes in and hits a bear hug belly-to-belly suplex overhead, which for the time in 1993 was pretty impressive. Then we see a Frankensteiner 1-2-3 gets the victory. Sherry Martel interrupts a Bam Bam Bigelow interview, basically wants to get her hands on Luna Vachon by any means necessary. Bigelow manages to grab Sherry by the hair, try to intimidate her, threaten to harm her, and then we see, a continuation of the Tatanka and Bam Bam Bigelow feud that eventually happens. El Matador Tito Santana versus Louis Spicolli. Spicolli becomes a main star in the ECW brand and gets some WCW time in the years to come. Unfortunately, passes away early in 1998, I believe it was. But Santana, does some good stuff with him here. Hip tosses and, real basic stuff. But Spicoli does get a few shots in, punches and kicks and the like, and the leaping, flying forearm by El Matador gets him the victory. Damien Demento against KC Cleric. Demento, character that never really got over. I don't think it was fully fleshed out, but he's still talking to the voices in his head. Headbutts and the like by Demento, Irish whip. And, it's kind of there. There's nothing in the match or in Demento as a character that's really unbeatable or tremendous. Neckbreaker by Demento. Demento manages to continue to talk at his opponent, uses a knee drop, and gets a victory while he's continuing to talk to himself. Then we see, I mentioned last week, the debut in vignette format at least of a new tag team. That team, of course, is the Smoking Guns. Billy and Bart Gunn, they ride in on horses, talk about wanting some competition, talk about being partners and friends for a long time. Looks like it's out of a 70s Western. Kind of a cool way to see them portrayed. I remember seeing the Smoking Guns before they debuted for first match on television right around this time. Pretty sure they wrestled two local talents at the time. But anyway, they brought pop guns, which obviously people who don't know, pop guns were basically guns where you could have, I don't know, I guess you'd say flash paper for lack of a better term, or this paper that would make a shotgun-like sound. Anyway, so they debuted and they shoot the guns off before the match, and they had not told the security that they were going to do this, apparently, because they're spinning around with the pop guns. The guns go off, and then we saw a security guard or two rush the ring, and I'll never forget that as a 12, 13-year-old kid thinking gunshots had gone off at a wrestling show. But anyway, just an interesting side story. Jim Duggan in a enhancement match with Tim Peterson, clotheslines, hip tosses, and the like. Duggan decked out like an American flag, still a big deal here. Tosses the man to the outside, goes, gets him, brings him back in. Vertical suplex, drops the knee, 1, 2, 3 for Duggan, and he gets a victory. Then we go to an update on the forearm of Lex Luger. Basically, it is discovered that he indeed does have a medical reason for the plate in his elbow. Pretty. Basically, it said Jack Tunney can't do anything about it because he legally has it due to the motorcycle accident, and people are going to have to deal around it. Bam Bam Bigelow attacks Tatanka backstage. This is after Tatanka stuck up for Sherry, beats him down, and they kind of use that as the impetus for the feud between the two. Then we go to another Mr. Hughes match. Mr. Hughes against Raven Clark. Hughes, of course, still dressed like a bodyguard, sunglasses, hat, and the like. Nothing major, but it's here. Hughes stalking around and kind of a lot intimidating. Uses the double choke and measured punches. Not as athletic as he was in his WCW run, to be completely honest. Harvey Whippleman does an inset where he basically says he's going to start managing the man. And some backbreakers and a modified choke slam by Hughes gets him the victory. Event Center Yokozuna basically says Mr. Fuji says on his behalf that he was cheated out of the world title. He's going to get the world title back, challenging Hulk Hogan for that. Mr. Perfect talks about wanting to get even with both Lex Luger and Shawn Michaels. That is there. And then we move to hype for a Doink versus Mr. Perfect match, which is part of, I believe, next week's affair. And this is not, I don't think, the King of Ring qualifier quite yet. Still a couple of weeks away from those, but basically Doink says that he is the perfect clown, and Hennig is unimpressed, and we close the month of April 1993 with that. So still, Superstars, a major force in 1993. We will be back. My goal is overnight tonight to finish up through July, which is what's available on the network, and then go back and fill in some gaps where we can. That's the goal. Until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment.